Have you ever found yourself awake at 2 in the morning, staring into the dark while your wife's gentle breathing rises and falls beside you? One hand on your chest, feeling the slow drum of your own heartbeat, wondering quietly where it all went. Where the fire went. Where you went. I am Dr. James. I am 63, a board-certified urologist who has spent over 3 decades sitting across from men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, listening to them share the same hushed fears. Not about cancer or heart attacks, but about slipping away piece by piece. Less drive. Less spark. Less of the man they remember being. Most men think it is just aging. The slow, inevitable loss of strength, desire, and confidence. They shrug, tell themselves it is normal, buy bigger pants, turn off the bedroom light a little earlier. But what if I told you that for many of you, what you are feeling is not age at all? It is theft. A quiet, persistent theft that begins on your dinner plate. It reminds me of something Seneca once wrote. We act like mortals in all that we fear and like immortals in all that we desire. Meaning we brace for disease or death, yet casually believe our energy, passion, and virility will last forever. Until the day we wake up and realize they have been slipping through our fingers for years. I have seen it countless times. A good man in his 60s or 70s sits across from me, eyes lowered, voice rough. He does not say he feels old. He says he feels invisible. He misses the way his wife used to glance at him across the table. He misses walking into a room and feeling a quiet certainty in his own skin. Most of all, he misses wanting, truly wanting, to reach for her hand under the covers without doubt creeping in. This fading rarely happens because your body is broken. More often it is because you have been feeding it things that slowly, almost cruelly, dull your edges. Foods that seemed healthy, recommended by experts, but that disrupt your hormones, choke off your circulation, and stir inflammation deep in your tissues. Over time, the man you were grows dimmer, not from the years, but from what you unknowingly invited to your table. But here is the hopeful truth. Your body is still listening. Even now. With the right shifts, it can rebuild, reignite, and remind you of the man still living inside. In the next part, I will show you the overlooked hours when your body does its deepest repair and why, if you give it even half a chance, it will fight to come back stronger for you. If this quiet reflection already stirs something in you, stick with me. Your next chapter could begin with a simple choice, one that starts tonight. Let me ask you something that might sound simple at first. When was the last time you truly rested? Not just lying in bed staring at the ceiling or flipping through your phone, but really allowed your body to drift into that deep, quiet space where it repairs what the years have worn thin. Picture it for a moment. The house finally silent. The lamp by your bedside casting a soft glow across the floor. Outside, the world has slowed to nothing but the hum of distant traffic. Your wife shifts beside you, her hand gently rising and falling with each breath. This is the hour your body has been waiting for all day. The overlooked hour. The time it goes to work on the things you do not see, patching up tiny tears in your arteries, balancing fragile hormones, restoring the signals between nerves that make you feel truly alive. Most men think nothing happens once they close their eyes. They believe sleep is simply time lost. But your body knows better. Even after 60, even when you worry it is too late, these night hours are when your deepest healing still takes place. I have spent over 30 years listening to men worry that their best days are behind them. They come into my office with shoulders slumped, speaking of fatigue or struggles in the bedroom as if it were some final verdict. What they do not always realize is that the body keeps score, but it also keeps trying. Every night, it is still fighting for them, piecing together strength in the dark. It reminds me of something Hippocrates wrote thousands of years ago. Healing is a matter of time, but it is sometimes also a matter of opportunity. Nighttime is your greatest opportunity. A gift you get every single evening, if only you give your body what it needs to do its work. Think about that. While you sleep, your arteries can soften, testosterone can be restored, tiny nerve endings can come back online. But only if you have not sabotaged them during the day with the wrong foods, or loaded your bloodstream with compounds that confuse your hormones. So when you lie there tonight, hand resting lightly on your chest, listening to your wife breathe next to you, know this. Your body is still listening. It has not given up. It simply needs the right support to rebuild. In the next part, I will show you exactly which hidden foods could be blocking this natural nighttime recovery, stealing from you while you sleep. Because the truth is, the wrong dinner can quietly undo the very healing your body tries to achieve overnight. If that makes you pause, good. Stay with me. Your quiet hours still hold enormous power, and together we will make sure they work in your favor. Have you ever wondered why, even though you are doing everything by the book, eating what the world tells you is good for your heart, you still feel less like yourself? Why that spark you once carried so easily seems to have slipped out the door without telling you? Picture this. Early morning light drifts through the kitchen window. The coffee maker gurgles on the counter. Robert, a 68-year-old retired school principal, sits at the table in his robe, his hands wrapped around a steaming mug. His wife moves quietly behind him, humming as she prepares breakfast. On his plate, a neat serving of tofu with sprigs of greens, a meal he proudly switched to years ago because he heard it was heart-healthy. But beneath that calm kitchen scene, Robert was wrestling with questions he did not dare say out loud. Why was his energy dwindling? Why did he no longer feel that gentle pull toward his wife when she touched his shoulder? Why did he wake up some mornings feeling more faded than the day before? When he finally came to see me, he sat in my office, eyes cast down, voice low. "Doc, I am not sick," he said. "I just do not feel like the man I used to be." Tests showed nothing alarming. Heart was steady, cholesterol just a touch high. But one small number stood out to me like a red flag in the breeze. His estrogen was elevated. Not wildly, but enough to tip the scales for a man his age. And that is when I asked him about his diet. His face lit up with pride. Tofu, soy milk, edamame. All the foods the experts said were good for him. What he did not realize was that soy is loaded with phytoestrogens, plant compounds that mimic estrogen in the male body. For a man over 60, already naturally experiencing a decline in testosterone, adding extra estrogen-like compounds is like pouring water on a dwindling flame. It reminds me of a simple truth from Paracelsus, an old physician who once said, "All things are poison and nothing is without poison, the dose makes it." Even healthy-sounding foods can quietly become harmful if they shift your delicate hormonal balance the wrong way. For Robert, it meant less drive, slower recovery, a body that felt softer and more tired, and yes, more nights lying beside his wife feeling distant and uncertain. Once we pulled the soy from his diet, it was not long before his shoulders seemed to straighten, his laughter returned, and his wife sent me a small handwritten note that simply read, "Thank you for giving me my husband back." This is not to say soy is a villain for everyone. But if you are over 60, feeling less sturdy in your own skin, more sluggish in your thoughts, or more fragile in moments of intimacy, it is worth questioning if that so-called healthy choice is quietly steering you the wrong way. Stay with me. In the next part, I will show you another hidden food mistake that might be stiffening your arteries instead of supporting them. Because what seems harmless on your plate today could be silently closing doors you want to keep open tomorrow. And if this story hits close to home, leave me a comment or share it with a friend who might need to hear it too. Your choices matter more than you think. Let me ask you something that might catch you off guard. Could the food you trust most to help your circulation be quietly cutting it off instead? I want you to imagine Harold for a moment. 72, silver hair combed back neat, wearing a flannel shirt faded from years of honest work. He sat across from me, tapping his thick fingers nervously on the arm of the chair. Outside my office window, late afternoon sunlight spilled over the parking lot, painting everything in a tired amber glow. "Doc, I have been doing everything right," he said with a faint smile that did not quite reach his eyes. "Every evening, I fix a plate with beets. I read they were great for blood flow. I eat them almost every night, but my legs still feel cold. And to be honest, things down there, they are not improving either." He paused, shifted his weight, a bit embarrassed. I leaned forward and asked the one question that would change everything. "Harold, are you eating them fresh or out of a can?" He blinked. Then chuckled softly, almost apologetically. "Canned mostly, sometimes pickled. Easier that way." And there it was. The trap so many well-meaning men fall into. Beets in their natural form are one of the most powerful gifts nature gives older men. They are rich in dietary nitrates, compounds your body converts into nitric oxide, the very molecule that tells your arteries to open wide and carry blood where it matters most. Fresh roasted beets are like a gentle whisper to your heart, your brain, and yes, your manhood, telling them to stay vibrant. But canned or pickled beets? The harsh heat of processing destroys much of those precious nitrates. Worse, the salty brine loads your bloodstream with sodium that squeezes your vessels tight, the exact opposite of what Harold hoped for. It is a quiet betrayal right there on the dinner table. It brings to mind something the old country doctors used to say. Medicine is often found in the simplest things, provided we do not let convenience rob it of its power. When Harold traded his canned beets for fresh ones roasted gently in olive oil, it did not take long. Within 2 weeks, he told me his feet felt warmer. By a month, he was walking further without fatigue. And one morning, he leaned in with a shy grin and confided that he and his wife were finally sharing the kind of mornings they both thought were behind them. So here is the power line I want to leave with you. The wrong version of the right food can quietly steal years of your vitality. Never underestimate what small shifts can return to you. In the next part, I will show you another common vegetable that seems harmless, even sophisticated, yet might be stirring up hidden fires in your joints and nerves. Stay close. And if Harold's story makes you rethink what is on your plate tonight, share it with another man who might need a gentle nudge. Sometimes that small choice becomes the biggest gift you ever give yourself. Let me ask you a question you might never have considered. What if that little ache in your knee or that faint numbness below your waist was not just age catching up to you, but something quietly smoldering under your skin, lit by what is on your dinner plate? I still think about Frank. 75, retired contractor, hands like old leather, voice that carried the slow drawl of a Texas sunset. He came to see me on a bright morning when the air was heavy with the scent of fresh-cut grass. We sat across from each other in my small office, sunlight spilling through half-closed blinds, dust floating lazily between us. Frank was the sort of man who did not complain unless it truly mattered. That day, he leaned back in the chair, rubbed his knees and sighed. "Doc, they hurt like hell. But it is more than that. I have lost all feeling down there. Not pain. Just, nothing. Like someone turned the lights off." His tests came back unremarkable. Heart steady, sugar modest, nerves mostly intact. It gnawed at me, though. So we talked through every part of his day. That is when it came out. Every evening, he and his wife sat on the porch and enjoyed a hearty plate of eggplant baked with tomatoes and cheese. Mediterranean, he called it proudly. Healthy, right? What he did not realize was that eggplant is part of the nightshade family, along with tomatoes, peppers and white potatoes. These vegetables carry natural compounds called alkaloids. In certain people, especially those already carrying the burden of mild inflammation from age, alkaloids act like tiny sparks on dry leaves. They can quietly irritate joints, tangle up nerves and deepen the sense of numbness that robs men not just of comfort, but of connection. It reminds me of something my old mentor once told me. Sometimes what nourishes one man can quietly undo another. The body is personal. It remembers. It reacts. When Frank agreed to set aside eggplant and ease up on other nightshades, we saw a subtle shift. Within weeks, his knees felt looser. Then one morning, he surprised us both by saying, "Doc, something's stirring again." I did not think I would ever feel that. The look in his eyes said it all. This was more than joints. It was about reclaiming parts of himself he feared were lost. So here is what I want you to take from Frank's story. The numbness you feel might not just be age. It could be your body whispering for a change you have overlooked. In the next part, we will look at a vegetable nearly every doctor praises, but when prepared the wrong way, it loses its very power to protect you. If Frank's story gave you pause, share it with a friend. Sometimes that quiet nudge is the first spark toward feeling alive again. Let me start with a simple question. Have you ever thought you were doing everything right, only to discover it was the very thing quietly holding you back? I want you to picture Walter. 69 years old, a widower with a kind smile and a slow, careful way of speaking. One afternoon, he sat in my office wearing a pressed flannel shirt, hands folded neatly in his lap. Outside the window, the late sun filtered through green leaves, throwing dancing shadows across the floor. "Doc," he began, "I steam my broccoli every night. I have for years. I heard it was good for my prostate and keeps me regular." He gave a soft chuckle, but his eyes betrayed something heavier. "Truth is, I have been feeling foggy. I get up more at night. And to be honest, things with energy, and intimacy, they just are not the same." I nodded, then asked how exactly he cooked it. His answer nearly broke my heart. "Well, Doc, I steam the life out of it. Sometimes microwave it when I am in a hurry." That was the moment everything clicked. Broccoli and its cousins, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, belong to a family called cruciferous vegetables. They hold a rare compound called sulforaphane, one of the most powerful natural tools we have to clear out excess estrogen, support healthy testosterone, and calm the silent fires of inflammation. But here is the catch. Sulforaphane is fragile. Overcook these veggies, drown them in the microwave, and you destroy nearly all of what makes them medicinal. You are left with roughage, but no deeper healing. It reminds me of something Hippocrates said centuries ago. "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." But he never said to boil the medicine out of it. When Walter made a small change, lightly steaming his broccoli for just a few minutes or tossing it raw into a salad with olive oil and lemon, he began to notice subtle shifts. His mind felt clearer. Nighttime bathroom trips slowed. And in quiet moments, he found a spark of connection he feared had faded for good. So here is what I want you to carry from Walter's story. Doing the right thing the wrong way can steal the very benefits you are hoping for. Your kitchen habits matter more than you think. In the next part, I will show you a humble green leaf that works like nature's little blue pill, gently opening your vessels and restoring circulation in ways that can surprise you. And if Walter's story made you rethink how long you stand over the stove, share it with a buddy who needs the reminder. Sometimes, it is not about adding more, it is about honoring what you already have, the right way. Let me pose a question that might sound almost too simple. What if the thing you have been searching for, clearer thinking, warmer hands, a little more life where it counts, was waiting in a humble handful of leaves on your plate? I think back to Tom, a 71-year-old former Air Force mechanic who still carried himself with quiet discipline. He sat across from me one morning in a crisp blue shirt, the collar slightly frayed, hands folded over one knee. Outside my office window, the sun broke through early fog, casting long stripes of light across the floor. Tom cleared his throat, then spoke with a kind of raw honesty I have come to cherish in men his age. "Doc, I am not looking for miracles. I just want to feel like myself again. Like a man." His wife had passed 3 years earlier, and he confessed that since then, something in him had dimmed. Not just physically, but in the way he saw the world, and himself. When we talked through his meals, it was mostly beige, toast, pasta, bits of meat. Almost no greens. That is when I introduced him to arugula. It might sound trivial, another leafy vegetable you toss in a salad and forget. But arugula is different. It is rich in natural nitrates that your body converts into nitric oxide, the very compound that tells your blood vessels to open, to relax, to carry rich oxygen to every corner, including the places that make intimacy possible. Unlike pills that force blood flow, Arugula works with your body, inviting it to do what it was always meant to do. It reminds me of something Leonardo da Vinci once observed. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Sometimes the most ordinary foods hold the most extraordinary power. Tom started small. A handful of arugula over his eggs in the morning. A light salad at night. Within a week, he told me his legs felt less heavy. His thoughts seemed to sharpen. Then one morning he showed up to my office wearing a grin that needed no explanation. "Doc," he said quietly, "it works. I did not need a blue pill. Just a little green on my plate. So here is the line I hope stays with you. Real healing often grows from the ground, waits on your plate, and whispers to your body to become strong again." In the next part, we will look at another overlooked powerhouse, one that is messy, earthy, and might stain your fingers, yet can help restore circulation and clarity in ways most men never expect. And if Tom's quiet victory sparked a thought in you, share this story with someone else who might be losing hope. Sometimes, all it takes is seeing another man rise back up to believe you can too. Can I ask you something that might feel uncomfortably honest? When was the last time you felt truly alive, not just going through the motions, but awake in your own skin, clear in your mind, and strong enough to reach for the woman you love without hesitation? I remember Carl. 67, a retired firefighter who still wore a faded station cap pulled low over thinning hair. He sat across from me in the exam room, shoulders broad but a little slumped, hands folded tightly in his lap. The window behind him framed a bright spring morning, birds picking at the grass just beyond the glass. "Doc," he said, voice rough with emotion, "I still love my wife more than anything. But I do not feel like the man I used to be. My energy is low. My legs feel cold most mornings. And to be honest, I have started avoiding the bedroom out of shame." What most men do not realize is that nearly every struggle they describe, fatigue, fuzzy thinking, dwindling desire, begins with one quiet culprit. Poor circulation. Without healthy blood flow, nothing else works. Muscles weaken, nerves go silent, and confidence slips out the back door. That is when I talked to Carl about beets. Not the kind packed in brine or drowning in vinegar, but fresh, roasted, deep red beets. Nature tucks something powerful inside them, dietary nitrates. Your body turns those nitrates into nitric oxide, a molecule that tells blood vessels to open wide and carry rich oxygen to your brain, your heart, and yes, the most private parts of who you are. It makes me think of something the poet Rumi once wrote. Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. For a man's body, that silent pull is often the simple craving for better flow, more breath, more warmth, a chance to feel alive again. When Carl began roasting beets with olive oil and sea salt a few nights each week, he noticed subtle changes. His feet felt warmer by morning. His walk stretched a little longer. Then one afternoon, he leaned against my exam table, his voice hushed but bright. "Doc," she smiled at me last night like she used to. That meant more to me than anything. So here is the truth I want you to hold on to. Sometimes it is not magic or medicine. It is oxygen. It is blood. It is reclaiming the simple flows that built your life in the first place. In the next part, we will explore a food that has guarded men's deepest health for generations, not by improving circulation, but by protecting the very cells of the prostate from slow, silent harm. And if Carl's story stirred something in you, share it with another man carrying the same quiet doubts. Because it is never too late to choose a new chapter, one nourishing forkful at a time. Let me ask you something you might not have thought about in years. When was the last time you stood in front of the bathroom mirror and saw not just an aging man staring back, but the same proud husband who once made his wife's heart race? I think of Richard. 74, a retired salesman who still wore polished loafers and pressed slacks even on casual days. The afternoon he came to see me, rain tapped gently against the clinic window, leaving trails on the glass like tiny rivers. Richard sat with his hands clasped, eyes down, voice soft. "Doc, it is not just that I have to get up at night more. It is that when I do try to be with my wife, my mind is distracted. I am too tired, too worried about what is not working. I just want to be her man again, not her patient." What many men over 60 do not realize is that a large part of this struggle does not start in the bedroom at all. It begins quietly, deeper inside, in the small walnut-sized gland called the prostate. As men age, that gland often swells and grows inflamed, gently squeezing down on the very pathways that once carried life so effortlessly. That is why I talked to Richard about something deceptively simple. Tomatoes. Not raw on a sandwich, but cooked slowly into sauces or roasted with olive oil. Cooking releases a powerful antioxidant called lycopene, which homes in on prostate tissue, soothing irritation and defending cells from long-term damage. It brings to mind something Hippocrates said long before any modern study proved it. Healing is a matter of time, but it is sometimes also a matter of opportunity. For men, cooked tomatoes are one of those small, consistent opportunities that can change everything over time. Richard began adding them in small ways. A homemade tomato sauce over grilled chicken, sliced roasted tomatoes on warm toast with basil. Nothing fancy, just real food. Within weeks, he noticed fewer nighttime interruptions. His sleep deepened. Then one evening, his wife looked across the dinner table and laughed at something he said. "You are lighter again," she told him. "You are not always listening for the bathroom door. So here is the quiet power I hope you remember. Sometimes the strongest guardian of your manhood is not a pill or a procedure, but a humble fruit that spends an extra minute on the stove." In the next part, we will uncover a leafy green that frees up testosterone already inside your body, helping you stand taller and feel sharper without reaching for a prescription. And if Richard's story gave you hope, share it with a friend. Because sometimes the most unexpected foods turn out to be the quiet heroes that keep us whole. Let me ask you something quietly personal. When was the last time you felt a simple surge of energy, stood a little straighter, and thought, "There he is, that man I used to know"? I think back to Leonard. 70 years old, a retired insurance adjuster who still wore a leather wristwatch he had owned for decades. He sat across from me one breezy afternoon, soft sunlight slipping through half-open blinds, painting lines of gold across the exam room floor. Leonard was a gentle man, voice low, hands folded carefully in his lap. "Doc," he said, eyes glistening, "I have been married to my wife for 43 years. I still love her more than anything, but I do not feel like a man anymore. Not in my mind, not in my body, not even in my heart. I feel like a faded photograph." What Leonard was describing is more common than most men ever admit. After 60, stress and age drain our reserves. Testosterone lowers, circulation slows, but even more quietly, critical minerals like magnesium slip away. Without enough magnesium, testosterone becomes bound and trapped, like fuel locked in a tank with no key. Your body cannot use what it still has, leaving you tired, foggy, detached. That is why I talked to Leonard about spinach. A humble green so many overlook. Rich in magnesium, nitrates, and folate, spinach does 3 quiet miracles. It frees up testosterone to be used by your body, it relaxes blood vessels to improve flow, and it sharpens mental clarity. All of it done naturally, without pills or complicated regimens. It reminds me of something Marcus Aurelius once wrote. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Real strength is choosing what you put on your plate, day after day, knowing it shapes not just your health, but your sense of self. Leonard started simple. A small handful of steamed spinach with breakfast or tucked into his lunch. It did not take long. First, his eyes seemed brighter. Then he said he felt more engaged, more willing to talk. Weeks later, his wife told him, "You are standing taller again." Her words brought tears to his eyes when he shared them with me. So here is the truth I hope stays with you. Rebuilding your hormones does not always come from a prescription. Sometimes it is as gentle as a forkful of greens that quietly unlocks who you still are. In the next part, we will bring all of this together so you can see how each choice builds upon the last, creating small ripples that turn into real change. And if Leonard's quiet return to himself touched you, share it with a friend who might need the same hope. Because feeling like a man again is not about chasing youth. It is about reclaiming the quiet power that never truly left. Let me ask you something that most men your age rarely stop to truly consider. What if the future you dream of, stronger, sharper, more connected to your wife, your family, yourself, was not locked behind big complicated changes, but hidden in the smallest choices you make each day? I think of the many men I have sat across from in this same quiet room. The walls lined with framed photos of fishing trips, grandkids, old college football days. Men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, who came in believing they were too far gone. Robert, who thought tofu was helping him while it quietly tipped his hormones. Harold, convinced canned beets would open his arteries, never realizing the salt was slowly squeezing them shut. Frank, whose nightly eggplant dinners fueled the very numbness he feared was just aging. Walter, overcooking the life out of his broccoli, losing the delicate compounds meant to protect him. But then there were the shifts. Tom adding a handful of arugula and waking up with warmer legs and clearer thoughts. Carl roasting fresh beets and finding his wife smiling at him the way she once did. Richard simmering tomatoes and finally sleeping through the night without chasing the bathroom. Leonard gently folding spinach into his morning eggs and standing a little taller by the end of the month. It all reminds me of a simple line from the Stoics. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. I would add, and on the quiet choices you feed your body every single day. Most men think transformation demands a grand gesture. But real change is usually humble. It is found in switching out one food for another, steaming rather than microwaving, or choosing a simple plate of greens instead of processed snacks. It is in pausing long enough to wonder what these small decisions build over months and years. I have seen firsthand that the body does not stop listening after 60. It just becomes more honest. It responds powerfully to every tiny nudge you give it, good or bad. So here is the power line I want you to take with you. Your biggest victories after 60 will rarely come from one heroic leap, but from steady, gentle steps that quietly rebuild who you are. In the final part, I will leave you with a message that ties all of this together. A reminder that you are not broken or beyond hope, only waiting to be rebuilt by your own hands. And if these stories sparked even a small thought about what might still be possible for you, share them with another man who deserves the same chance. Because sometimes the quiet example you set becomes the loudest encouragement someone else needs. Let me leave you with one simple question. When you stand in your kitchen tomorrow morning, looking down at your plate, will you see just another meal, or will you see a quiet chance to rebuild the man you thought was slipping away? I think back to 100 small moments in my office. Men leaning forward, elbows on their knees, voices catching with emotion. A wedding band turning nervously on a finger. Outside the window, sunlight cutting through trees, catching the faint lines on their faces that tell the story of decades lived. I remember Robert's surprise when his energy returned after letting go of soy. Harold's grin when warm feet meant warmer nights. Frank rediscovering feeling where he thought it was lost forever. Walter standing at his stove with a gentler touch, protecting fragile compounds meant to heal him. Tom, Carl, Richard, and Leonard, each man reclaiming something quietly precious with nothing more dramatic than a better choice at the dinner table. It reminds me of something an old country doctor once told me when I was just starting out. Most men do not lose their health all at once. It slips away in tiny surrenders, and it comes back the same way. Little by little, bite by bite. So if you take anything from these stories, let it be this. Your body still listens. Even after 60, 70, 80, it is eager to respond to what you feed it, how you move it, and the thoughts you allow to shape it. You are not broken. You are simply waiting for the right nourishment to start rebuilding from the inside out. Here is the power line I want to leave with you. Your future does not have to look like your past. And the next chapter of your life might just begin with the next plate you choose. If this message touched you, or made you pause even for a moment, do something gentle for yourself and share it with another man who might be quietly struggling. And if you believe more men deserve to hear honest, life-changing truths like these, consider making a small donation support to the channel. It helps keep these videos going and free for every man who needs them. Thank you for spending this time with me. Wherever you are right now, I hope you look at that next forkful not just as food, but as a small promise to the man you still are, and the life that is still waiting to be fully lived.